Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, licensed counselor, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. We pray that you'll be encouraged by this all-new podcast. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hey, this is Rachael at the Hopecast. Thank you so much for joining me again with Scott Stone. We are doing part 2 of his story, and we talked a little bit last week about what brought him into law enforcement and some of the different experiences that he's had and ways that he's impacted the community. And he was getting to the part of the story before the shooting at the Murray Hill Apartments on February the 5th, 2018. So Zatina has shifted directions, and he is now moving towards you and Micah walking down the sidewalk. And what happens next?
So I remember looking at him, and as he's approaching us, he's kind of got his head down, looking down at the ground, occasionally looking up. But he's got his hands in his hoodie pocket. And I remember looking back kind of where Micah was and then looking to the side to see where everybody was. So just kind of situational awareness. So when I did that, I purposely kind of looked down because I was nervous. I didn't want to make eye contact with him and everything. So he starts trying to walk past me, but he is shoulder to shoulder with me. He's trying to purposely bump me almost. So I step a little bit more to my right. And as we're pretty much passing each other, I turn and I remember kind of grabbing him. Or I guess you would call it a bear hug. So I grab him, but I purposely grabbed him the way I did to try to keep his hands in his pocket. One of the things as law enforcement officers, we're always taught, if the hands are in the pocket, keep them in the pocket because they could come out with a knife or something to hurt you with.
Yeah.
So my thought process was if I keep his hands in his hoodie pocket, I can at least control him, and then Micah can grab a hold of his hands in the pocket and everything.
Okay.
So, and I remember as soon as I grabbed him and I yelled police, and in my thought process I had gotten everything out, but kind of looking back I got out police and then I heard the bang. So,
wow.
But normally when we're contacting someone, we say, police, stop resisting, you're under arrest.
Okay.
So that way they kind of they know that we're placing them under arrest. So, and then I remember all of a sudden hearing that bang and not getting out that full sentence. And I'm thinking to myself, that was a gunshot. I'm pretty sure that was loud. That was close. And
You're processing this all in slow motion.
yeah, it was super slow motion. And then I remember kind of looking up at Zatina, and he kind of looked up at me. I remember having a hold of him, and then all of a sudden he starts kind of trying to pull his arms apart. And I remember thinking that he punched me in the hip because I felt an impact in my left hip.
Okay.
And I was I remember thinking I gotta keep him from getting his right hand free, but I couldn't tell you why. So
and at this point, the bullet was already in your hip.
Yeah,
but you're thinking he punched me. I gotta keep control of him.
Yeah, so I gotta keep control of him. And so we ended up fighting for just a few seconds and that kind of thing. And a little bit later, I realized thinking back on it, he was trying to get his right hand free because he actually had a gun in his hoodie pocket and he had shot me. Okay. And then he was trying to get it free so he could shoot me again, but he could shoot me in the head. So that's why we were fighting, because he eventually did get his arm free, and he was trying to bring it up towards my head, and I'm thinking he's trying to hit me in the head, so I'm trying to keep his hand away from my head and that kind of thing. And that's when Micah jumped in.
So did you remember that he was going for that second shot immediately in the weeks after? Because I remember that being something that we talked about that was kind of recovered memory from trauma that you had blacked out for a while.
Yeah, the first couple of weeks, I couldn't really remember. I remember, I couldn't remember anything until, actually hitting the ground. But then as, time progressed, I kind of remembered. I remembered that. Remember fighting him. I remember, trying to keep his hand away from my head. But at the time, I just remember thinking hey, you got to keep his hand away from your head because he's trying to like hurt you or whatever. So
okay, yeah, I think that that's interesting for the audience to hear, like that's a really normal part of trauma, is that the brain unravels memories and images as time progresses, and as there's a sense of safety and kind of the space to let those things out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so you're
Sure.
thinking, keep the gun away from your face,
Mm-hmm.
and then what happened?
So I remember starting to feel weak in like below my hip. Like I couldn't feel anything below my hip. And then I remember Micah grabbing a hold of the guy. I don't remember seeing anything, but I remember hearing it. But I remember like kind of starting to try to hold on to him and hearing Micah fight over the gun. And eventually I just like collapsed. Like I couldn't feel anything below my hip anymore. And like it felt like I was super weak.
And when we say eventually, we're talking seconds.
Oh yeah. Like
maybe less.
Milliseconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it felt like it was a while for me, but it happened super quick. So, and when I fell down to the ground, I remember like kind of falling to the side, and having to like kind of roll over because I remember hitting my head a little bit, and like I heard more gunshots. So I heard one, and then I heard something that sounded like another person hitting someone. So, and then I remember.
Do you know what that was? Someone hitting someone, or was that Micah falling?
So the first thing that I heard, the first gunshot, was Micah being shot because they were fighting for the gun over Zatina's head. Micah was trying to wrestle the gun away from him.
Okay.
So when the round went off, it went through the trachea area of Micah and then got lodged in his lower back, I believe.
It exited.
It exited.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, so then what the person-on-person thing that I heard was actually another detective came up and actually tackled Zatina. So, and during the tackle, they kind of ended up Zatina ended up breaking free and rolled over. And then this detective ended up firing point blank at Zatina, but Zatina was still able to get off his entire magazine. Like I remember looking up and seeing Micah laying on the ground, and then just beyond Micah was Zatina. And so I remember drawing my firearm, getting ready to engage him, because all I saw was Zatina holding his gun up and literally just firing every which way. So like there were bullets going. I remember bullets going to the left, right, like whizzing over my head. Like this dude.
They found someone in apartments, lodged in walls.
Yeah. So like everywhere.
Yeah.
Like so when that happened, I remember thinking, I've got to engage this dude, but I got to be careful because Mike is down. I don't know how bad he is, but I don't want to hit him.
Right.
So.
Which is something that all officers think about anytime they use their weapon, is who's around me, who's behind me, where could my bullets go?
Yep.
Stuff that, suspects don't think about when they shoot people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, suspects most of the time don't care who they hit or what they hit. So, yeah, law enforcement officers, we have to live by the 4 firearm safety rules.
Okay.
So, and you hit Granny down the street, you're liable for that. You can even get charged for hitting Granny down the street. So, not only that, but you can get sued for it too.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so you're on the ground. Mm-hmm. You're ready to draw your weapon. Is it Trey that's tackled him and point blank?
No,
shot him?
Trey was running up from where he was.
Okay.
And Marcus tackled him. So when Marcus tackled him, that's when Marcus started, or like Zatina started firing, then Marcus started firing, then Trey started firing, and then I know one of our other detectives shot his gun, and so they did all that.
Yeah.
So there was like so much in that moment.
Right.
And that
it's
kind
amazing how when you pull it all apart, how many threads there are. I think they said the whole incident was over in 10 seconds.
It was super quick if you think about it. I mean, 10 seconds is not a long time.
Right. No, it's not a long time at all. And we've been talking for a little while, just kind of pulling it apart. And you can see how incredibly complicated these officer-involved shootings are, and trying to get all of the perspectives and understand the context and everything that went into that momentary encounter that changed lives forever. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Mike is on the ground. Satine is on the ground. All the bullets are fired.
Mm-hmm.
What was that rescue like for you?
So I remember thinking, okay, I can't feel my legs, so something's wrong. I need to figure out what's wrong. So we call it sweeping the body, basically. It's where you take a hand and you're literally just going over everywhere on your body to see if there's blood. And you did that? Yeah.
Okay.
So, so one of the things I remember from training is they told me if you're ever in a firefight and you have a full bladder, you will pee and poop yourself.
Okay.
So I remember like swiping over my groin area and going,
you felt
wet, and looking at my hand and there was nothing there. I'm like, okay, so I peed. I'm like, and I remember wiggling a little bit and going, okay, I didn't poop. So that's good.
Isn't it crazy what the brain will do in those times of trauma and the thoughts that you can have?
For real.
Yeah.
And I remember wiping over my left side because that's where like I kind of felt like a stinging pain. Mm-hmm. So, and looking at it and I had blood on my hand. So I'm like, okay, so I'm hitting my left hip. And then I felt like a hot rock. It felt like it was like in my right buttocks area. So I took my hand and put it underneath and like didn't feel it, or looked at it, didn't feel any blood or anything. So I'm like, okay, so I'm hit on the left side. There's something up with my right. So that's when people started running to me and they were like, where are you hit? And I'm like, left side. So they looked, they started like putting pressure on the wound, which really hurt. And I remember hearing John Watts yelling, stay with me, Micah. So, and I remember seeing them taking off his vest and everything because they were getting ready to do CPR on him and everything. So I remember trying to get up to try to help with that. But every time I tried to get up, my sergeant, Jake Abishan, was like, no, stay down, Scott, stay down. And I'm like, okay. So
you were still engaging the scene as an officer, not as a victim.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like it didn't even occur to me that I was like a victim of the shooting. Like at that point, like I was just thinking I need to like control the scene type thing.
Yeah.
So,
which is a great base level of training.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank God for that. So and I remember being by myself a couple of times because like I remember also reassessing the scene and everything. And my glasses had got knocked off my head. But I remember seeing a dude laying over to my left, probably like 25 yards away.
Okay.
And I heard him say, can someone please help me?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, where did he come from? Like, who is that? And it turns out it was a bystander that had gotten hit.
Yeah.
And so I remember them running over to him. I was by myself for a little bit, but I was like, okay with that. So, and then Stephanie Chris coming to me at one point, asking me where I got hit, and then like running back to her car, and then she attended to the bystander, and then Mike Boggs and Jake Abishan like coming back and forth between like to me, back and forth. So, and I remember quite a few times when I was by myself, I was like looking up at the sky and like seeing everything go technicolor to like grayish and that kind of thing, and I'm going, I am not dying. And so
that feeling of helplessness and fear of death combined is like the core foundation of post-traumatic stress disorder. For people who are listening, the fear of not being able to do anything about it and that you could die in the situation is how that groundwork is laid in the brain. So I want to ask you later about that, about maybe flashbacks or things that you had from that experience. But go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're good. So yeah, I remember like looking up and going, I can't die. And I prayed. I said, God, don't let me die here. I also kind of like reasoned with God a little bit. I was like, hey, God, I haven't given my wife a second baby yet. So I can't die because she'll be really mad and she'll kill me. So like she thought it was funny. And kind of like going a little bit into the future, 2 weeks after the shooting, she came to my hospital room and told me she was pregnant with Nora. So we kind of call it God's sick joke of going like, I'm sitting there. She already
was pregnant.
Yeah, I was like, I was bleeding out and like pleading to God, don't let me die because I need to give my wife a second kid. Like he's up there going, joke's on you.
Joke's on you. Okay, so you get in the ambulance and you go to the hospital. Are you conscious? Do you remember all of this? Like,
Oh, yeah. So, like, when I was still on scene, because it, like, took a while for the ambulance to get there, they, like, had poured quick clot into the wound, which burned like crazy. I remember them putting pressure on the wound, everything. And then when the paramedics showed up, okay, it's February, and it started to snow. So it's snowing on my face because I'm laying down on the ground. And all of a sudden, the paramedics are like, we need to see if there's any other wounds. So they just start cutting off my clothes.
Okay.
So now I'm laying pretty much butt naked in middle of February on this cement. And I'm like, this is awesome. And there's a whole bunch of my coworkers now around, like, coming up and going, oh my God, Scott, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm shot. Duh. Like, I'm leaking blood. Like, that's a problem.
And is that what you said, or that's what you thought, or both?
I don't remember exactly. I know I said a lot of things.
Okay.
So, but when they got, so that's also kind of like a funny story is our protocol is whenever you get into the ambulance, you have to have a rider, a companion rider. So the companion rider for me, because they just grabbed the quickest deputy they could, was a female officer by the name of Kat Houston.
Okay.
And so I remember...
So Kat's seen you in all of your glory.
She has seen everything. So it's really awesome.
The worst way ever to get to know your coworkers.
Oh, dude. Anyways, fast forward. We got to the hospital, and I remember them rolling me into the ER. I want to say Micah had gotten rolled in first, then me, or then the bystander, then me. I could be wrong on that order. But when they rolled me into the room, they kind of like did some pre-op stuff, and then they rolled me right into the OR.
Okay.
And I remember when I was sitting in the OR room, one of the nurses had asked me for Aliana's number. We were married at this time. So, and I was like, don't worry about it. She'll be fine. My command staff will go talk to her. I'm sure of it. They're like, well, we want to call her and just make sure she knows that you're here. And I'm like, no, it's fine. And finally, like, I remember hearing that the lady, like, telling them who Aliana worked for, and her actually being on the phone with Aliana's work. And I was like, thinking, like, how dare you? Like, I was super mad that she had called her. Like,
was that like a way of protecting her in that space from that exposure to how severe your injury was? Like,
yeah, like,
because everybody was getting phone calls at that time, right?
Well, and my thing is someone from, like, we're always told someone from the command staff will go and pick up your loved one and bring them where they need to be.
Right,
so, like, my thing is, if there's somebody from the command staff going to pick her up, I'd rather them tell her so that way she has that person in front of her than to hear it from me over the phone.
Right. A lot of people called me before command staff was able to get to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, and it's just, like, super... Like,
right, which is just total chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I remember them handing me the phone, like, here, talk to Aliana. And I'm like, seriously? So, like, they put the phone down by my head, and I'm like, hey, honey, I'm okay. And she's, like, freaking out. She's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I've been shot. I'm okay. I love you. Tell Carter I love him. Just get here when you can. And so, like, I was choking it back. And it turns out later, because I was super mad at the nurse. I found out later on that was the ER staff. They wanted me to talk to Aliana before I went into surgery because they didn't know if I was going to make it through.
She didn't make it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like, I couldn't be mad at them then. I was like, well, thank you for giving me that opportunity. So,
right.
Yeah. So then 5 hours later, I'll get out of surgery and go from there. Okay.
So tell me what some of the impacts of your injury were, because you've had ongoing struggles with that.
So I've had issues with my iliac wing. I've had a dead vein in my leg, so the iliac vein in my leg is completely dead. I've had pseudoaneurysms, aneurysms, hematomas, hernias, all sorts of different stuff. So, and I actually still have the bullet in my back, in my psoas muscle. And
you missed Micah's funeral because you were in the hospital recovering. How long were you in the hospital?
So I was in the hospital a total of like 9 times. Altogether, I think it was like over a month and a half.
That initial stay, you don't remember?
No.
Yeah, there was a lot of hospitals.
Yeah.
So you went back to work. Help people understand, like, how you made that decision. Like, why continue being a police officer after having that kind of an experience?
I didn't want to give up. That's the biggest thing is like I just didn't want to. I didn't want to give up and be like a statistic. So like I've kind of in my thought space, it was if I just let the injuries rule my life. First of all, Micah gave up his life to like save me. So what would that be sending a message to other people? Like what would that do to my psyche? Like if someone else is willing to die for me, why am I not willing to live for them?
Wow.
That's kind of where I was at with it.
Did it seem like that would have been a waste if you had changed careers? Was that the thought?
Not so much if I changed careers. I figured whatever I did, I wanted to return back to law enforcement for sure. My big thing is I want to do something that would be honoring to Micah and that would show my kids that you can rise above anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that we call it the win mentality in law enforcement. Like I just remember always thinking like, what's important now? So
what's important now? The win mentality. Okay. So we talked a little bit about laying down the foundation in the brain for post-traumatic stress disorder, and some of those symptoms would be flashbacks and nightmares, difficulty sleeping, traumatic triggers in your body. Did you have any of the symptoms of PTSD after the shooting?
I would say yes. So, and I've had counselors say that I did experience a mild PTSD from it, and I sought help. That was one of the big things. Is like I knew that I needed to talk about it and figure out how to work through a lot of that stuff. So I think mine was a lot less than some of the other guys that I was with that day, and I used it. So what I think a lot of guys, I think one of the big things for me was, I did have flashbacks, and I did it like I have every now and then times when like I would cry over it or I would think about it and it would really affect me and it would really just kind of suck. But
absolutely,
I knew that it was okay to have those feelings. So and I knew what I needed to do when I got those feelings. And that's the biggest thing is once you know how, like what those feelings are, you know how to address them. And that's a huge thing is because if you don't seek help or someone to explain it to you, then it just ends up like eating you up alive because you don't know how to deal with it.
Right. I think what you're saying is huge because I think that there's a culture within law enforcement that you need to suck it up, buttercup, and that you should be able to see and experience really traumatic things and handle them by yourself, not need to talk about them, not need to talk to a therapist, not need any additional support. And that's really damaging.
Right.
Yeah. So I really admire that you are willing to just see those symptoms in yourself and say, I'm not going to let this compound and go down the road with this. Thank you so much for joining us at the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. I've been talking to Scott Stone about the shooting that he was involved in with my husband that took Micah's life. And we've been talking about what life after a traumatic event looks like. So how do you feel like life is different for you after? Is there a before and after line for you from that experience?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So and they kind of prep you, especially with the doctors, like, hey, there's going to be a lot of differences in your life, like just the way you do physical stuff, where you like do mental stuff and all that kind of thing when you are getting out of that hospital or are recovering from a traumatic injury. So the doctor's always trying to prep you physically and emotionally, like when you're getting out of the hospital, saying, hey, recovering from a traumatic event, you're going to experience life differently. I kind of knew that things were going to be different. So there was a lot of, like, physically, there was a lot of differences in my life. So especially because, like, I don't even have full function of my left leg or my hip anymore. So
huge change. Yeah.
So, like, I can't do a lot of the physical stuff that I'd like to, especially with, like, Carter and Nora and everything. Mentally, there's a huge difference of how you just process things. You see, I want to say I have a deeper appreciation for life and like for the time that I get to do. So I'm a lot more cognizant of what I'm doing and like how much time I'm spending with my wife and kids and everything.
That's kind of a silver lining of a loss, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just valuing your time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
I've also definitely felt more of a calling, like to do ministry work and that kind of thing too.
Okay.
So
What kind of ministry?
So I really just want to continue like helping people, but I've felt this like pull just to be there. Like I'm so used to dealing with trauma and like tragedy and everything that just being that calm, like helping be that calm voice. So I've kind of felt a pulling to that. So like with my church, I actually do a lot of that stuff for like funerals and
Wow.
other kinds of things. So like when someone passes, helping them
What a gift to them.
cope with that and like process through those and like marriages and all that kind of thing. So
Really being with people in their hard places.
mm-hmm.
That's a different kind of gift, because a lot of people, especially in our American culture, can't tolerate being with you when you're really hurting. Yeah. That's uncomfortable. We don't really have that skill set already laid down. I was over at your house one time in the midst of your recovery before you come back to the office. And I remember that you had some friends there that had just come to talk to you and cheer you up. What role do you think your friends and community and church have played in your ability to be resilient after the shooting?
It was huge. So especially towards the beginning, you see a lot more support. You see a lot more people gathered around you, and it was huge. I mean, I had everything from like local bands coming by my house to people just offering to donate time, financially help out, energy to just help us with the kids, help us with food, all that kind of stuff. And that was huge.
Yeah.
As time starts to go on and you start developing the new normal, you see some of that start to die off. But at the same time, you still have a sense of community. So like I can still go out in public and there's still a group of people that will recognize me and like ask me how I'm doing and that kind of thing, which is super cool. I don't think the community forgets. I think they move forward and they remember the names like Micah Flick. They remember the names of like Jared Jensen, Matt Tyner, all those guys who helped sacrifice something for the community. I don't think that's ever forgotten. Even with law enforcement, like we always honor our fallen and that kind of thing, but the community itself also honors those names in their own ways. It may not always be in the forethought of their minds, but people still do.
Yeah, that's really good. I think people have great intentions to continue to remember and honor a hero and save a hero's place and all those really cool organizations that are set up to remember fallen officers. So we're at about 2.5 years out from the shooting. What are things that people do more currently that mean something to you as you continue, right? You said you've lost like certain use of your leg and your hip, and we have this before and after of this loss, and you've chosen to go back to law enforcement. But I know I'm different. Like, would you say that you as a person have been affected in just the way that you see the world?
Oh yeah.
And that people checking in on you still is valuable, even though it's been 2.5 years.
Oh yeah.
So could you put your finger on anything that people could do for yourself or people in our position who are several years out from their loss and their trauma, but that would still be meaningful to them to say, I see you?
Yeah. So I would think the biggest thing that really helps out with just identifying folks and like saying, hey, I see you, is like even spending time like grabbing a meal with somebody. Or I thought it was kind of cool that we got invited to some of the different like galas around town and that kind of thing. Just like little things like that, or even like getting a Starbucks card.
Yeah.
I mean,
coffee.
People do that stuff every now and then. Or like I know that when I put something out on Facebook like, hey, I need help with this, just something in general. I have like a handful of people who end up volunteering. It's always like different people.
Yeah.
So small stuff like that just really helps. I know one of the cool things that I've seen is people help remember the families in like different ways. So like Tim and Shanoa have that business where they have the stakes that they write the Bible verses on.
The prayer stakes, yeah. Tim and Shanoa are Micah's parents, for you guys who haven't heard of them before.
So, and they have that. Mm-hmm. They have that, and that's really cool that people just remember Micah by even like purchasing those through them.
Absolutely.
Just as like a, hey, thank you for
memorial t-shirts. Yeah, for sure.
It's huge.
I think that's important for people to hear, is that it doesn't have to be the grand gesture to be meaningful, and that a cup of coffee or going to dinner or a phone call can be really impactful to remind someone that you value them and that you recognize that their life is changed because of that loss. What advice would you give to someone who is considering going into law enforcement, especially at such a culturally heightened period between law enforcement and the community?
So there's a couple things I would say. Definitely go into it with an open mind. If you're going into it with the closed mind of I'm just going to catch the bad guys, or I'm going to do this, you're not really going to enjoy it. If you're going into it because you actually have a heart to help people, it's going to be more worth it, and you're going to have a better time in a career in law enforcement. Another huge thing is for people to go in and make sure you understand the struggles ahead of time. So speak with a law enforcement officer, go on ride-alongs, go see what they do on a day in and day out basis. Make sure you understand that headspace that you need to be in. Obviously, folks are going to learn a lot of stuff in the academy, and that's great. One of the biggest areas where we see people drop out of law enforcement is between the academy and FTO. And the reason being...
FTO stands for?
Field training. So field training. It's technically field training officer, but we call it FTO.
So that time between the academy and field training.
Yeah.
Why do people leave?
Because they actually get to experience those stressors, and they see that, when they get to experience those stressors, they're like, hey, I didn't know that this is what I was signing up for. So you have to have a mentally tough position on things, is that no matter what happens, I did something good. So you may end up getting spit on. You may end up getting people that just hate you. They hate your family. They hate your guts. They write things on your garage. But at the end of the day, if you can say, I helped this person, I helped this kid, I helped this family, I helped this single mom, those are what really counts. So I helped, even if you, like, one of the things that we always talk about is domestic abuse. If you can take one domestic abuser away from someone and away from that relationship, even for a night, you gave them security for a night. Yeah. So that's huge. Absolutely. So people say it's not that big because the person may come back, the person may not testify, whatever, but you kept them safe and you kept them alive for another night. So that's the big thing, is you're giving them a chance. So that's a huge thing.
Well, and I love circling back to the story you told us last week in the first episode of being with that little boy who drove the car and rolled it 7 times. And you were there for him in that moment when he wanted a hug. And that was his traumatic moment. That was his tragedy and his before and after line. Mm-hmm. And you made sure that he wasn't alone and that he knew that he was safe despite his whole world being upside down in that moment. And so having those touch points that you can look back on, that you forever impacted him. You didn't just keep him safe for a night, but you showed him that there are people who care about him and love him even in his darkest moments. And I can't think of very many things more powerful than having that kind of impact in someone's life.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, it's cool to know that I've made an impact on some people. So if I changed one life, it's worth it. So
absolutely. I just am so grateful for you being willing to be here and to share your story. And I know we'll be friends for life after having lived through this experience together. And I appreciate that we can have fun and be silly and laugh, and also, you know, think about the heartache and the hardships of life, and see what God has done in both of our lives, bringing us through 2.5 years later. And I love you guys, Aliana, and your kiddos, and I look forward to years ahead to continue connecting and just supporting each other, as I call it, trauma buddies. But, you know, it bonds you. It really does bond you when you go through hard things together.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much, Scott, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachaelflick.com. While there, you can discover more information about all the platforms that this podcast is on. Also, be sure to click on the social media icons at the top of the page, and you will be directed to Rachael's social media sites. While you're online, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachaelflick.com to book her today. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.